Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Super glad to be joining you today. Today from actually sunny Toronto. We're at the World Tour in Toronto. Joining me here in person is Marcus Torres, and he's a Senior Director of Product for Lightning. And over in San Francisco, we're super happy to also have Eric and Kanyar. So Eric Jacobson is the VP of Product Management over at Salesforce, and Kanyar is also with Salesforce, and he is the Senior Director of Product Management. So what brings everyone together here today is the fact that we're all about Lightning. And I don't know if everybody joined us a couple of weeks ago where we were exploring the wilds of Reddit, but it was super fun to be able to all jump in a room together, and we had some special extra guest stars like Farhan and Andy Fawcett to jump in and help answer all the questions that you've got. So today we're going to continue that set of questions from everybody in the audience here in person, and what we want from you now is start sending us questions that you have regarding Lightning. We already have a few that we're set up to answer. And so before we answer those questions, though, I do have to spend a couple of minutes, of course, if you go to the next slide with our forward-looking statement. So this is, so be sure to base any purchasing decisions on what's currently in the market. And if we go to the next slide, if you want to let other folks know what's going on with this particular webinar we've got going on today, spread the word on Twitter. Let other folks know, have them jump in and ask any of the questions that they've got. So if we'll just leave it there for now, and let's fire off the first question. I wanted to clear the queue, so to speak, of questions that we had from Reddit. There were a couple people that submitted questions that didn't quite make it before we ended our session on Reddit. So let's start off today with those questions now. I think the first question is probably best for Eric. So Eric Jacobson, we have a question here. Is there any reason, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we're good, Arabella. Let's go for it.
Oh, okay, awesome. I just realized I was talking a lot. No one had a chance to say hi. So Eric, is there any reason that the tabs component is not available in app pages? I only see it in record pages, and it seems like it should be simple to enable it everywhere. What do you think?
That's a great one. It's definitely something that we are working towards. I agree that we would love to have the tabs component everywhere. It's an exceptionally versatile component because it allows you to create more virtual screen real estate. The simple reason why it's not yet available on the app pages is that app pages are fully responsive, which means that they work on not just in Lightning Experience, but they also work in the Salesforce mobile application. And we've got some work to do on our side to make sure that we have a great user experience for working with those tabs when on your phone or tablet. So stay tuned. It's something that we are actively working towards, and then we'll be able to support tabs everywhere.
Awesome. Thank you. I think the next question that we've got is somewhat related to the question that you just answered, but let's check it out. So this question is, a columns component would be really cool so that we could have one tab that was full width and another tab which displayed different items side by side. And the question says like this, but I'm not going to tell you the URL right now over the phone.
Right, exactly. I think that there's the beginnings of a campaign for that one on the Success community. So it's still fairly nascent, but it's something that we've been thinking about as well, and it's something that I think would be pretty exciting to be able to do. For the developers that are on the call, you may know that within Lightning components and Lightning pages, you do have the ability to build components that can be aware of how much width they have. In other words, you can build components that can be aware of whether they're basically in a small, medium, large, or extra large width region. And that is essentially layout metadata that's passed into your component and allows your component to make decisions about how it should render based on the space that's available. And so building a quote-unquote columns component, we would need to be able to pass that through as well. So for example, that when you divide up a large region, does it become 2 small regions, 2 medium regions? These are some of the considerations that we're thinking about as part of that, and trying to be able to make it so that we can have a fully responsive system. So no immediate time frame for it, but do know that it is something that we are actively considering, and I think that it would be a great enhancement to have.
So this is Marcus. I'm going to jump in because Eric is really providing some of the roadmap for using the app builder and having some of those components be drag and, the drag and drop kind of clickable components. But a couple things I would add both for the previous question and this question is we do have a tab set, Lightning tab set programmatic component that developers on the call could leverage today and put that tab, put whatever they want in their tab set component with their various tabs and their components underneath that. And they could do that on other pages today. So that is available today programmatically. And then also for layout, you have 2 different options. You programmatically, you have the Lightning layout component, which allows you to break up any given area into as much as 12 different columns in which you can put whatever content you'd like, as well as if you prefer not to use the Lightning layout component, you could also use SLDS classes, which can be found at lightningdesignsystem.com. So the good news is you could actually do this today programmatically, but Eric spoke to the future roadmap of how you could do that through declarative tools.
12 columns, huh?
12 columns.
12 columns is a lot of columns. Okay, thanks for that. So the next question we've got here is from somebody named Alexander. And thanks for this. You're saying, I'm so excited you guys are doing this. You know what? We are too. We're hoping to have a few more of these in the future. Alex went to a Lightning Now tour in Denver yesterday. And the question is, I heard that there might be a JavaScript button converter coming out soon. Is there a release date yet, and where can I find it?
Okay, I'll take this one as well, Arabella. So yes, you did hear correctly. In fact, we first announced it at Trailhead DX back in March when we first showed a brief demo of our Lightning Configuration Converter is the official name of the tool, and the idea is that it will scan your org, detect any JavaScript buttons you have, and it will assess them and make attempts to automatically convert them to constructs that are supported by Lightning Experience. Because as we all know, JavaScript buttons are not supported in Lightning Experience. As far as the release date for the tool, we don't have an exact release date set for it. It's not tied to one of our major releases. So just because you don't see it at the beginning, if you don't see it at the beginning of the summer 18 release, does not mean that it won't come to market sometime during that time period. I expect realistically it'll be sometime later this spring, early summer. We're doing some final testing of it as we speak. We want to make sure that it's solid and robust for everybody. And so basically the intent is the tool will probably in the initial version be able to tackle about 20–25% of the JavaScript buttons out there. And what it will do is some of them it's going to automatically convert to other types of URL buttons. Some it will automatically convert to quick actions. And then the third class, it will go and it will give you a starting point for creating a Lightning component action, and it will give you a starting point to creating some of the Lightning component code that you would need for those. And so we're pretty excited about the tool. I think it's going to be a great step in helping people with their JavaScript buttons that they need to move from Classic.
Awesome. I'm glad that we're getting more questions in from people, and I'm super glad that people are going to the Lightning Now events that we have going on. Just as an aside, all these guys are going to Lightning Now tours, so keep an eye out for any future dates if you want to ask them things in person. Eric, you've been answering all the questions. I'm going to give this next one to Kamyar. So this
sounds good.
Is in Lightning, do quick actions replace classic buttons? And that one was from Michael.
Actually, not quite. Obviously, quick actions are more prominent in Lightning, especially if you think about global quick actions that are available from the plus menu in the header of Lightning, which is quite an improvement over Classic. But, the buttons that we use to do standard actions like new, edit, etc., those will continue to work, and provide the same functionality in Lightning as they do in Classic.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. I hope that answered your question, Michael. The next question we have here is, Marcus, I'll ask you this question from Josh. It's 2 parts. The first one is, when is the cutoff date for current Classic customers? So everybody's asking a lot of questions about Classic. And 2, any more upcoming helpful features for Classic to transition to Lightning? I think we got a bunch.
Yeah, sure. So so for number 1, there is no end of life date for Classic as of right now. There's been numerous conversations about it internally, but Salesforce trust is our number 1 value. And if you've been with us for a while, you know that our releases don't try to break our customers, or never break our customers is our goal. And so at this point, there is no end of life date for Classic. If I was to make a guess, if we did eventually say that and say there was a date that we're going to cut it off, it is definitely years down the road. For number 2, you just heard about one of these helpful features, which was the JavaScript button converter. We have a whole team to help you transition to Lightning that works on various tools, including things like the Lightning Migration Assistant, which you can find in Setup. And on top of that, all of the content and Lightning Now tours and events that we're doing. If you're at a world tour, we do consultations where we sit down with you one-on-one. And at the Lightning Now tour, that's a 2-day dedicated event to help you understand Lightning and migrate to Lightning, both from a technical perspective as well as a admin perspective. So a bunch of things that we're doing to try to help you move on over.
Actually, that's why you're here right now in Toronto, right?
That is correct.
So if you happen to be in the area, Marcus will be sitting patiently at a desk, waiting for you to come with your laptop and your Lightning problems.
Just after this webinar.
Just after this webinar. Cool. Thank you for that, Marcus. So then the next question here, this is going to be an interesting one, and it's up for anybody. So I think anyone or all of you can answer this question. Can you think of any reason that a company or team definitely should not implement Lightning? And that's from Adam.
Well, I can't think of any reason, but...
Wait, go ahead. Who's answering?
This was probably our... Lightning is great. We have a lot of features that are actually unique to Lightning. But we also understand that there's many customers who have invested a lot in Classic through customizations and ways that they've improved their org. We do offer the great tool, which is the Lightning Migration Assessor tool that you can access through Setup. I would actually encourage everyone to use that tool. The report is very robust. It actually analyzes your org and gives you exact information about how moving to Lightning would affect you. So, I can't think of any showstoppers, but that tool is the best way for you to find out whether there's things within your org that you may want to evaluate first.
Thanks, Camille. So I'm gonna try to answer this a slightly different way, which is for Adam, who's out there on the webinar. My question to you, and not saying you don't want to move to Lightning, but my question to you is, do you still use a BlackBerry? Does anyone still on this call use a BlackBerry?
We're in Canada.
It's fine.
That's true. There's a lot of people.
I'll say it in Canada, I'll say it in India, it doesn't matter. The reality is Classic was a great experience and really served our community well. What we invested in with Lightning was not simply putting your database on a page and having a page-driven model, but really about trying to optimize your workflow by having, different operations contained within these components that you can then encapsulate into a single page or into a few set of pages that allow you to do that level of workflow. In the same way when everyone had a BlackBerry and iPhone came out and everyone said, yeah, but I really love my BlackBerry because I like doing email. They just found that they can do more and be more effective and more efficient with Lightning. And so with we see an average 41% productivity gain on Lightning. And so we really see that as the future of Salesforce. That's where all of our R&D investment is. And I can't really see a reason why anyone wouldn't change, except for the fact that they just simply don't want to have to go through kind of the change management of it all. And we understand that. We're humans, right? We don't like change. But just like from the BlackBerry to smartphones, it was a good change that eventually everyone adopted.
So don't implement Lightning if you hate change.
I wouldn't say that, but sure, Bella, go ahead and say that.
All right. Cool. Thanks for that. Eric, do you want to answer that too, or do you want to go to the next question?
I think we've covered it. Let's go. Let's keep going.
All right. So the next question is, should we get Lightning quick action buttons in the case header the same as it works on every other object, as it's quite annoying only being able to have it?
So the behavior of case is specific and is separate from some of the other objects, and it was done specifically by Service Cloud to make things optimized for agents that are trying to quickly and easily process cases. So there are some differences in the behavior of the way the case feed works from the chatter feed in any of our other standard or custom objects. Longer term, from a roadmap perspective, what we want to do is we want to provide admins and developers a lot more flexibility about where your actions and your action buttons appear on pages. So right now, you don't have control over where they appear. And I think we had a couple of questions actually as well that have shown up about this, asking, can I control where my actions appear? Why are they always in the highlights panel? And so what we want to do for this is we want to provide more flexible, more granular metadata to control where actions are assigned. So to allow you to be able to say that one or more of the components on the page should be able to be configured to display the actions and give you full control over that. In fact, even giving you the ability to say, I want to put a button in a particular place and have it be tied back to one of my actions, whether it's a standard action or a custom quick action or even a custom Lightning component action. So that's where we're heading with it. That's absolutely on our roadmap. Today, though, you are correct that the case behavior is going to be different from any of the other objects.
Okay, thank you for that, Eric.
Good.
Let's see here. The next question we have here, it's probably best for Kanyar to answer, and it is from Mark, and it's regarding a page layout refresh issue. So during some of my customer implementations, I often need to make changes to page layouts, and there are often caching issues where a page layout will not refresh right away for the user. Is there any way to resolve this so that the user can see the change right away? Did you get that, Kanyar?
I did, and so the answer to this is that yes, there is a way to essentially disable that caching of the layout. But one of the things that Eric and I were discussing here before answering this question was that the reason we cache the layouts for users, like in a production environment, is to improve performance. And when you really think about it, in a business setting, it's not common to constantly be changing layouts for a user. It's sort of unconventional, but it is quite common while you're developing. So what we would recommend is during development, let's say if you're in your DE org or if you're in a sandbox and you're working on making changes to the layouts and you want to see them reflected right away, there is a way to disable that through setup. It's actually under mobile settings right now, where the layout changes will take effect immediately. But in production, we recommend that you leave that on because it improves the performance of the app for the user. And really, the caching is about, I think it's like 15 minutes or so. So, we definitely recommend that you do it in this fashion.
Great, thank you, Kamyar. Let's see here. So, Mark, I hope that answered your question. Kamyar, I got another question for you from Donna, and the question is, I'm struggling to find code examples. Is there a repository of sample lightning solutions?
So I'll take that because I think it's probably better if I address it. So there actually is. If you go to developer.salesforce.com and you go to resources, you'll see a link there called Component Library. And we're actually making a great change to Component Library in summer 18, so it'll be even easier to use and provide more samples. But there's plenty of code examples with all of the public Lightning components that you can use right there in one place. So that's a great tool for you to try to leverage.
Yeah, and if I can jump in too, there's a bunch of different sample applications people can download and play around with as well. So if people are familiar with things like the Pure Aloe sample app, the Dream House sample app, and we've got 2 or 3 other ones. They're full end-to-end applications as well, so not just individual samples.
Correct.
So,
yeah, and so the Dream House app, I think, is probably one of the most robust we have. And I think you can find that at dreamhouseapp.io, I'm pretty sure. So, and you can actually install that as an unmanaged package into your org, and you can actually see all the code, and it's very comprehensive.
Yeah, it's a great app. Thank you for that. And then I guess I'll ask you the next question too. So it is, can we link Lightning Experience console apps together? So I'm in one app. Can I click a button or link to another open console? Does it make sense to do this? And that's from Chris.
Definitely makes sense to do this. It is actually something on our roadmap in a lot of service scenarios. So imagine a call center where you have multiple screens. You're doing something in one screen and it should trigger something in the other screen that has, another kind of page of Lightning up, if you will. So that is on the roadmap, and that's coming.
Great. So we have another question here about App Builder from Jeremiah. It is, when will we get the ability to show fields dynamically in App Builder? That feature will be really powerful, and I've had multiple use cases come up where this would be useful.
I completely agree, Arabella. It's actually something that we are hard at work on. We are bringing the power of App Builder and bringing the capability of being able to edit the content of layouts into App Builder. Ultimately, once we bring these things together, we would be able to tap into some of the capabilities like dynamic lightning pages that gives us the ability to be able to have conditional visibility rules applied to components and extend that to be able to apply to sections of fields and eventually to individual fields themselves. So look forward to seeing some exciting things probably around the Dreamforce timeframe later this year, and then into next year for it to become more widely available.
Okay, thanks, Eric. And more demand for other things. I have another question here from Francis. Are there any plans to add component visibility filters for buttons?
It's a great one as well. Much the way that we were talking about providing more granular control over the positioning of the actions, being able to attach those same kind of dynamic visibility filters to actions is another key piece that we want to do about all of that. So yes, we want to bring those concepts all together there so that App Builder really becomes your one-stop tool for declaratively customizing the Lightning experience to be able to have control over the visibility of components, visibility of buttons, visibility of fields. It's a lot of pieces that we're bringing together, so that's why it's going to take some time there. We also need to make sure that we do so in ways that don't break any of our existing usage. So bear with us, but we are absolutely working in that direction.
Okay, great, thanks. So many roadmap questions. Here's another one for you.
I know. I mean, I think it's great. Hearing these kind of roadmap questions means that people are using the features that we have, and then the next logical step is the application of them to other areas. So I'm excited to hear it.
Okay, good. I got another one for you.
Okay.
I got another one for you from Kyle. Is there a roadmap for allowing custom Lightning components to become a container for other components, so users of the App Builder and Community Builder can place components inside of other components? This is like Inception level componentization, similar to how the out-of-the-box tab component works today. That's from Kyle.
It's not quite as mind-blowing as Inception, but it is something that we've got to do some work on to allow this to be possible. So in App Builder today, you've got two components that can do it. There's been a tabs component, and then beginning with the spring release, we introduced the accordion component. So there's now two options for it. In terms of allowing custom components that have the same behavior, I would say that it's on our long-term roadmap. I wouldn't expect to see anything in the next year that allows it, but it is something that longer term we would like to make possible. And certainly I'm sure that Marcus will chime in and let you know that as developers, of course, you can embed any kind of components within any other components. But in terms of doing it declaratively in App Builder, it's on our longer term roadmap.
Cool. Marcus, did you have anything to add to that, or?
Nope. Let's keep going.
Nodding his head. Okay, yeah, we'll keep going because we're getting so many good questions from everybody. I love it. Keep it coming. So the next one we've got here is, this is an interesting one. Can I stop users from switching back to Salesforce Classic from Lightning? That's from Kevin.
Yep, you can definitely do that today. If you just create a new permission set, you'll see in the options of that permission set that you can actually disable users from going back to Classic. So you would just simply want to assign the roles or the users to that permission set, and they won't be able to do it anymore.
Done. Great. So thank you. The next question is, can we make the same component available in Lightning and within a Lightning community? I think Chris also had another question earlier that we answered.
So yeah, you definitely can use it. I'm not sure if this is a custom component or if you're asking about our components, but we don't have all of our components supporting every possible scenario or environment in this case, communities, Lightning out, Lightning experience, etc. But if you create a custom component, you do have that availability.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's go to the next question here. It's from Chris, and it is, are you working on a way for a Lightning component to subscribe to a platform event channel natively, like through an Aura handler, without having to use Comet D? And that's from Chris. Camia, are you the best person to answer this one?
Yeah, I can answer it. So the answer is that is something that we've thought about, and it's on our roadmap. I can't give you a specific release yet because we're still trying to figure out what's the best way to make that available to developers programmatically, like you suggested, as part of a component. But over the next 2 to 3 releases, we're doing more to incorporate platform events with Lightning and actually provide some features out of the box that my teams are working on. And then based on that, we can think about what we want to make available programmatically.
Okay, great, thank
Sorry,
you.
A little cryptic, but yeah.
Okay, I've got another quick question for you. We have recently made the wholesale switch over to Lightning, including writing numerous custom components. We were having major issues when creating or updating data on a custom object page layout. As the update trigger fires a future job, that calls a number of external web services that updates fields on the record. I keep getting a message saying that somebody else has modified the record, which it has. Refreshing the page doesn't work, and the only way to view the updated record is to move to a different object, then back to the updated record. Can you offer any insight into this?
Yeah, so I'm aware of this issue, and I think one of the things you can do if you're able to for your custom components is to use Lightning Data Service. That'll certainly help. We're also working on a feature that's going to be pilot in summer 18, where if you are using Lightning Data Service and there are changes made to the records that you've been working with on the server, we automatically update Lightning Service so you don't run into these errors. So if you want to reach out to me and talk more about this use case, I'm happy to take that.
Okay. What's the best way to reach out to you?
I guess Twitter.
All right, there you go. And I think your Twitter handle is online as well. But can you remind folks of what it is?
Yeah, it's KAM7AR, and that's it. Or you can email me as well if you're interested. First initial, last name at Salesforce. Yeah.
Twitter should work. Great, thank you. So let's see here. The next question I've got is a year or, oh, sorry. How far off are we in getting a responsive design for Lightning, which could default for, let's say, an iPad within Safari web browser? And that's from Aaron.
So that is on the medium or short-term roadmap. We do have a plan to release a version of Lightning, or basically it's not a version. You just log in through Safari or a web browser on an iPad. And you would basically get the desktop experience, but it'd be responsive to the iPad form factor. That is underway as far as it's a effort internally. I believe it's 2 releases away. Erica, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure at least 2 releases away.
Yeah, it's at least 2 releases out. We're doing some experiments and research on it as we speak.
Okay.
Okay.
What's next?
Thank you. So the next question is from David. I love the inline edit in the list views and the math edit using Lightning actions in list views. Are these going to be available in related list views? And can you discuss implementation options for related list inline edits?
Yeah, so this is, actually we just made this change kind of internally or structure release where the same team and the same owner of list views actually has taken ownership of related lists altogether. And they are working, I believe, in the winter release to convert related lists to use the same kind of underpinnings as list views. So you would have those capabilities right there in related lists. One other thing I'll do a shout out for is there is a component called the Lightning Data Table. That is actually the UI component that drives list views and in the future related lists. And basically anytime you want to display your data in kind of a cellular or tabular format. This is a great component for developers to leverage if they want to have a list of data that is either a composition of multiple types of data, could even have external data and Salesforce data together because it's a pure visual UI component. And so you essentially do the wiring to your data, but then you use the UI component just for the visuals. And a great example of something you can enable in Data Table today that you can't do in list views is showing or being able to show and edit a list view with multiple record types. Obviously, you would have to handle that save and do that data handling, but the UI component is available for you. All right, what's next?
Great, thank you. So the next question here is, are you working on a way for Lightning component to subscribe to a platform event channel natively, like through an Aura handler without having to...
We just answered this, I think.
Sorry, I was like, this looks really familiar. The next question we have here is, I have a button to generate an agreement in Classic. How would you recommend we do this in Lightning? And that question's from Prasad.
Hi, Prasad. I think there's a few different ways you can do that. It's going to depend a little bit on what you need the result of that button to do. So, for example, if your button is needing to generate a URL with some dynamic parameters, you can do that. You can do that with a standard URL button using our formulas capability to dynamically populate those parameters. That button will work for you interchangeably between Classic and Lightning. If it's a bit more complex, if you actually do need to run some code to be able to generate that, then my recommendation is going to be to use a Lightning component action. In that case, what you're doing is you're actually creating a Lightning component and invoking that from the action. And for that, we've actually got a great set of starting points to help you with that. There's a publicly available GitHub repository that we call the Lex Components Bundle. And the idea is that it's a starting point to be able to make it easy to create some of those Lightning components that you would want to invoke from an action. And if that's something that you're interested in, if anybody on the call here is interested in that, you can find that by, we've got a nice short URL for that one. It's bit.ly/lex, in other words, lex_component_bundle. So, and that'll take you to a GitHub page on our Visualforce GitHub repository, and you can find some starting code there for 9 different Lightning components that you can use as ways to either replace JavaScript buttons or to get you started with new Lightning component actions.
Great, thank you, Eric.
Yep.
This should be an interesting question here. Lightning console apps versus single page apps. What are use cases for one versus another?
I'll take this one as well. And I think a lot of this really is a decision about the model of use of your user, in the sense that if a user is going to be looking at one record at a time, the standard navigation is going to be simpler. It's an easier application. It allows you to focus on the one record that you're trying to accomplish a task with. If, however, you're in any type of high productivity environment, whether it's a call center or an inside salesperson who's going to be, potentially working with multiple customers at the same time, then our console is a great option. Instead of having multiple browser windows open to be able to display different records at different times, what the console allows you to do is to have multiple workspaces all within a single Lightning application session there in a single browser window. And so it's definitely our recommendation for those types of environments. So I think that's the filter that you should look at with it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Eric. Let's see. The next one we've got here is, why is Lightning not available on Internet Explorer 11?
Well, that's also another one where that's not correct. Lightning is available for use in IE 11. It requires you, however, to opt in at the org level to what we call extended support for IE 11. And that's basically that if you go to set up and you go into session settings, your admin is able to agree to some additional order terms, allowing you to use IE 11 with Lightning. And the reason that we do this is that while we support IE 11, personally, and I think effectively, we don't recommend it. It is not the ideal browser to use with Lightning or really anything going forward, in the sense that it is a less secure browser. It does not implement all of the modern security standards that you'll find in Chrome, Firefox, Safari, or Microsoft's Edge browser. And so therefore, we want you to explicitly acknowledge those limitations before we allow you to use it with Lightning Experience.
Okay, great. Thank you. So yes, it does work, but we'd rather you use other things.
And just to note, it works for a limited time.
Okay.
The support is through the end of 2020. After that point, their plan is that we will no longer support IE 11 there, and you will need to have moved to a supported browser.
Okay, good to know. Do you want to add anything to that?
I'll just say that IE 11 is not a modern web browser. And so any UI framework, including Lightning, has challenges with a browser that isn't a modern UI, a modern browser, because it doesn't support JavaScript correctly.
That's a big thing.
Okay.
So great. So the next question we have here is from Srinivasa. And does the entire org need to be converted to Lightning, or specific applications within an org, or just specific applications converted to Lightning instead of the entire org?
So an entire org does not have to be converted to Lightning. You have a number of controls on how you enable Lightning. You can do it at the individual user level. You can create a perm set. You can do it by profile. It's really up to you. There's plenty of controls kind of at your disposal to determine how you want to roll out Lightning. In regards to a specific application, it's kind of hard to speak to that. Technically, most applications, kind of custom apps in Classic are a series of objects. Those are to some degree auto-converted. So if you created a tab set, you would see that in the app launcher as an app, right, within Lightning. And if it's just a number of objects, that would auto-magically just be converted for you. So no big deal there. Obviously, your profiles or perm sets, etc., provide users certain access, and that's all respected in Lightning.
Okay, thanks for that. I think there's a related question that I'll ask about this, and it is from Michael Carrera. And what are things to consider when deciding between a strict vanilla conversion to Lightning experience versus taking advantage of the major UI retraining to also undertaking a business process redesign?
This is a very interesting question. And I had a mobile analogy earlier with BlackBerry, so I'm going to try to kind of use something similar again. If you guys all remember, at least I'm old enough to remember this, that when kind of mobile web first took off, right, and we were all pretty much using BlackBerries at the time to view it, or maybe even flip phones for that matter, companies would take their corporate website or their e-commerce site and they try to throw it on mobile, and it just wouldn't work well. And the reason why I use that analogy is because a lot of times when I'm sitting here in Toronto doing Lightning consultations face-to-face with customers, a lot of people are saying, I'm doing this in Classic, I want to do the exact same thing in Lightning. And when we start to dig into it, the reality is we reimagined how Salesforce could work by making the experience be workflow based, not just simply kind of page to page to page. And that is something that I believe if you invest in as part of your Lightning migration, so you sit down with your users and you don't ask them how they do things in Salesforce, but what they are trying to accomplish, and you are familiar with all of the components and the different tools at your disposal in Lightning, you can actually construct a new workflow in Lightning that is very productive for your organization. And that way you're not just to Michael's name, to Michael's point, just hitting the button and saying, switch to Lightning experience and just trying to run with it, doing nothing, but you're actually invested as an organization, and the people will be invested because they helped you create this workflow based on what they're trying to do. And that is a best practice that we had, and there's plenty of documentation you can find on that. If you look at for example, the Lightning Now success community, just Google that and you'll find some docs there.
Great, thank you. The next question we've got is regarding the Navigate to components. So are there any plans to support Navigate to components or the successor of Open Subtab for Lightning page tabs? I'd like to support Lightning App Builder for my Lightning components, but since there isn't a Navigate to App event, I'd have to package everything as a component tab. Of course, I'm looking for the ability to set an attribute on the Lightning app page, and that's from Rob.
I think there's two pieces here. I'll answer the first, maybe Eric, you can answer the second. So there is a navigate to component method coming. I believe it's in summer. I'm 99% sure that's in summer. So you can actually navigate to component programmatically. So you can basically fire an event, and that will and that will basically do what you're asking for. As far as the hooks in the app builder, it seems like to do navigation. I'll let Eric answer that.
Right. So I think the question is slightly different as well, as I interpret it there. I think it's asking about being able to, how would you navigate to a Lightning page tab? So a app page that you've built with the app builder that you then want to be able to access via URL there. And so, no, you can't do it. You can't do it via the navigate to component event, but you can do it via the navigate to URL event, because the Lightning page tabs do now have standard URLs that you can use. So you are able to navigate to that tab via URL, and that is something that is supported. The follow-on piece of that question, I think, was also asking about, could I then pass parameters and have those parameters be then perhaps provided to components on the page? That's a great idea. It's something that we've also thought about internally. I don't have any specifics on a time frame for it, but I think it's a good idea.
Okay, thank you. That was a 1-2 answer there. Loved it. So the next question we have here is from Curtis, and it is, when will Lightning Data Service support multiple records?
So, yes, this is Kamir. So that supporting multiple records is on our roadmap, and Safe Harbor, we believe that it's going to ship in winter 19, which is our upcoming Dreamforce release. And you'll be able to access multiple records through ListView functionality. And in the first release, you'll be able to read multiple records through ListViews with the bulk save, in other words, making updates to multiple records at the same time, being a release or two after that.
Okay, great, thank you. So the next question we have here is, we've built a Lightning page with a combination of Lightning components and standard HTML controls with Lightning Design System. The page loads 20 records at a time and a next button to load the next 20 records without a page reload. Each reload has about 30+ UI elements. With 20 records, there's about 600 UI elements on the page. We found that Lightning components use a lot of memory, and that on a mobile device, like an iPad, the page crashes all the time because memory is not released. What's your recommendation to fix this problem? Our workaround is to rewrite the page to use standard HTML controls, but is there any plan to have a lightweight version of Lightning components?
Sure. So I'm assuming you might be using the data table component based on the fact that you're saying you're loading 20 records. I'm not sure. At the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter if it's Lightning or any other JavaScript framework, right? If you're adding components into the DOM of the page, that's going to take up memory. One of the things we are doing, and is on the roadmap, probably 2 releases out, is we're going to put virtualization into the data table, so that as you, say, load 20 more records, or if you have thousands of records, tens of thousands of records, we've already done a proof of concept of it with, I think, hundreds of thousands of records. You could say, get to those anywhere within that data table, and just simply by scrolling, because we're removing and adding things, or not adding, we're just removing things, or we're replacing the data, and all the DOM stays the same. So in the meantime, that's something I'd recommend, which is basically look at having the same amount of DOM elements, and then you're just moving data in between those instead of adding new rows, which is essentially increasing the amount of DOM elements in the page. And for everyone who's non-technical on the call, I am sorry. Okay.
And for people who are non-technical on the call, well, there's a lot of questions here that are pretty technical. So, but we have one here for Kamyar, and it is, are we going to get a Fieldset Lightning component? And that's from Mark.
So thank you for the question. We need to be very careful when we're talking about field sets and Lightning components, because field sets are metadata that a lot of our partners and customers use programmatically. So we are planning on adding support in Lightning for you to be able to retrieve the field set metadata. But as far as a declarative component goes, that's something that we're looking at in a different way, and it's further down the road as far as the roadmap goes. And to be more specific about the programmatic solution, in the next couple of releases, we are essentially going to let you access field set metadata through Lightning Data Service and then build your own Lightning component that's custom to you. It won't be anything that's like a declarative component you can add through App Builder at this time.
Okay, great, thank you. Let's see here. So the next question we've got is, can Lightning components be contained in Visualforce pages, and how it behaves in classic UI?
Yes, the answer is yes. You can have Lightning components within a Visualforce page. You can have Visualforce pages within a Lightning component, and you can do a Frankenstein of an intermix of those if you would like. The one thing I would say is that there are certain base components or standard components that we have that require the kind of shell, if you will, of Lightning. So it does things like panel positioning, etc. And those components will not behave correctly, or basically do not work in Visualforce because obviously you don't have that container around it. But for example, if you created your own custom component, you could leverage it any way you like. And that's actually how some of our largest partners build their components, is they build it and then they leverage it within Visualforce in Classic, while they also leverage that same component in Lightning without Visualforce.
Okay, thank you for that. We've only got time for a few more questions before, unfortunately, we do have to wrap up. So let's do a power run through the next few questions here. This next one's from Albin, and the question is, are the Lightning pages available in Salesforce 1?
So yes, if you build an app page, so a custom net new page that you build in App Builder, you can assign those to be visible both in Lightning Experience and the Salesforce mobile application. From activation, you have the choice of which experience you want to publish it to.
Okay, cool. Or I guess we should also say, are the Lightning pages available on Salesforce mobile? So the next question I think is probably best for you, Eric, as well. So can we add dashboards, not Wave and Lightning pages?
Absolutely. There is a standard component for dashboards that will allow you to put the dashboard onto any of your custom Lightning pages.
Okay, great. Let's see here. Here's one about from Jeremiah about collapsible sections. So I guess the question is, are collapsible sections coming? For example, collapse details are related in particular in context of consoles. We can collapse list views and use split view. It'd be great to collapse record details to take advantage of smaller viewports. What do y'all think?
I think some of this is going to be possible over time. I mean, there is some collapsibility of sections within record detail. There's also the ability to do some things today yourself as well. If you build a custom Lightning page template, you can create some degree of collapsible regions. It requires the developer to build that page template, but then it becomes possible.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Let's see here, just one or two more. Oh, do we have a Lightning equivalent of Apex detail tags in Lightning Framework? Something that displays the detail page of an S object in Lightning Experience in our Lightning components.
Yeah, so if you use Lightning record view form, that basic, and then you give it the layout type equals full, that'll basically be the same exact thing. It'll, oh, sorry, no, I'm just now mixing it in my brain. Sorry, too many components. So if you use Lightning record view form, you can put whatever fields you want there using Lightning output field, and you can put whatever you want, and it'll show exactly how you want. But in Summer, we have a great new component called Lightning record form. In Lightning record form, you just pass it the content or layout type equals full, and it'll display the entire record for view. It will also have the ability to do inline edit, so you could actually have the full view and edit of that record, or you could disable edit if you wanted to. So that's a great new one coming in Summer 18.
Great, thank you for that, Marcus. So thanks again, Marcus and Kamyar and Eric, for being up to answering so many questions from the audience. But now we want to know answers from you. So if you could, please take the survey today. It's going to be sent at the end of this webinar. We would love to know if you like this format, if you want to see more of it, or if there's particular products or services that you want us to focus on for Salesforce developers in the future. So please take a moment to fill out the survey after we've wrapped up here. And then I want to answer one further question from the audience. And that question was, do we have Lightning and Trailhead? And boy, do we ever. We have so many resources for you to use and to learn about Lightning components and Lightning experience, Lightning platform on Trailhead. Just pop to trailhead.salesforce.com, and you can learn so much more about the concepts and the ideas that we've all been walking through today. So Marcus, you made a comment earlier about the content here being technical. It's all super approachable if you start diving into Trailhead and picking up some modules and following some trails. And everybody here can be experts in no time, and you can kind of pace out the learning kind of at your own speed. So I wanted to thank you all once again. So does anybody, Marcus, Kamyar, and Eric, do you have any final comments or things you want to say before we wrap up today?
I just would thank everybody for all their enthusiasm. This was great.
I love it.
Yeah, ditto. Thank you for all the questions and the feedback.
Great. So if you missed them and you want to hear more about them in the future, they're also going to be on the road, as I mentioned before. There's a few more world tour dates. We've got all of the Lightning Now tour events. And of course, you can ask them questions online. Kamyar, I think you mentioned before that your Twitter handle was KAM7AR. Was that right?
Yep.
And Eric,
the one with the Y was taken, so I had to use the 7.
There you go. Eric, what's your Twitter handle?
Mine is at ESJACOB, so ESJacob.
Awesome. And then Marcus, you want to share yours?
Yeah, mine is mtorres_tweet.
Great. So, and if anybody has any questions or comments they want to let me know about, I'll be at Darabella, so Arabella with a D in front. So thanks again, and have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening. Bye.